In this video, I'm going to show you how to use DNS to block cyber attacks. Hi, I'm Sven and I'm a security architect. My goal for this channel is for it to be a resource for security controls that have been proven to be effective, easy to implement and maintain, as well as testable. If that's something that interests you, please like and subscribe. Attackers often set up domains for their malware, hacking tools, phishing links, and the like. Because so many attacks depend on using domains, we can disrupt those attacks by preventing our DNS servers from resolving what's considered malicious domains. Open source threat intelligence platforms like the one shown here collect tens of thousands of new domains every month. Most likely your DNS server will resolve most of these domains, which is a big problem. Now, before you go down the path of fixing your DNS server or changing your DNS provider, take a moment to test whether you actually have this problem. Head over to secureful.com where you can get a trial version of our tool, which tests your ability to block malicious domains. The tool also tests a whole lot of other security controls. Okay, so hopefully you paused the video and took the time to test whether you have a problem with blocking malicious domains, and you are now ready to implement this security control. The first step in implementing a security control is usually to take a look at the technology, and in this case, how DNS actually functions. Suppose we have a laptop which we want to browse a website with. Let's just call it website.com. And website.com has an IP. So we put in website.com in our browser, and our laptop doesn't know the IP. Since computers use IP addresses to connect to each other, our laptop needs to figure out the IP address of website.com. This is where DNS comes in. Our laptop will ask a DNS server, what's the IP of website.com? And the DNS server will reply with the right IP address. So now that the laptop knows the IP, it can connect. The next scenario is the laptop has gotten some sort of malware or a phishing link. Now, for those who think, well, if we had a good antivirus, you wouldn't have gotten infected in the first place. And you might be right in many cases, but historically we know that systems have been hacked even when their antivirus has been up to date and the system has been fully patched. So in order to offset this from happening, we should always add additional security controls. And this is what's referred to as defense in depth or layered security controls, where if one security control fails, we still have other controls that reduces the likelihood of a successful cyber attack. So back to our example, this malware or phishing link is trying to connect back to an attacker so that the attacker can get control of our laptop or perform some malicious action. And in order to connect, the same procedure will have to happen. So just like the browser was able to connect to a legitimate website domain, the malware is able to connect back to the malicious domain. In this case, we would want to prevent the domain from being resolved into an IP address so the laptop cannot connect back to the attacker. Which leads us to the last example. So here again, we have a malware on our laptop and it needs to connect back to malware XYZ and it needs to know the IP. But this time we have a hardened DNS server. So when this malware asks for malware XYZ IP, the DNS server picks up that this is a malicious domain and sends back a refused code, and thereby blocking the connection back to the attacker. So in other words, we want to have a DNS server that is configured to block malicious domains just like the one right here. And if we were to look it up, it will actually refuse to give back an IP. Now compare this to just using the typical Google DNS server, and you will see that we get an IP back, even though this is a malicious domain. And we can do the same thing with our security testing tool here, just on a much larger scale, where we're testing thousands and thousands of domains that we're looking up. And you can see here we've done a bunch of testing on different networks with different DNS servers. Again, giving you a very good insight into how well the different DNS servers actually work on filtering out malicious domains. In order to block malicious domains, we basically have two choices. Either you run your own DNS server and you harden it, or you use a better DNS service somewhere on the internet. There are multiple that are doing a great job filtering out malicious domains. If you run your own DNS server, you'll have to automate the process of fetching malicious domain block lists every now and then. And I'll have a link in the description for different block lists that you can use. And if you're using external DNS servers, then head over to a link in the description as well. So once you have implemented DNS filtering, it's time to test your ability to block domains again. So there you have it. That's how you successfully implement DNS filtering of malicious domains.